This video is going to cover the first part of Chapter 8, Section 1, which is the Pythagorean Theorem, and then tomorrow we'll do the converse to it. So hopefully this is something that we remember. The Pythagorean Theorem says in a right triangle, the square of the length of the hypotenuse is equal to the sum of the squares of the lengths of the legs. It's also known as a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So in this equation, c has to be the hypotenuse or the longest side. So we'll know this based on numbers because it would be the biggest number. And we'll know it based on a triangle because it'd be the side opposite the right angle. A and B are interchangeable. So it doesn't matter which number you make A, which number you make B of the legs. But the C, again, has to be the longest side or the hypotenuse. These are common triples. So a triple, by definition, is the lengths of the sides that work for a squared plus b squared equals c squared, and that are all whole numbers. So no square roots, no decimals, no fractions. These are the most common ones, and so you'll see these a lot in standardized tests. They're great to know to help you with time. 3, 4, 5 is one. 6, 8, 10 is another. 5, 12, 13. A little less common, but still good to know, 7, 24, 25, and 8, 15, 17. So that one's just hard because something like 17 squared is hard to break down. It would be only 17 and 17. So the most important thing to realize is that if I get given two numbers of these, the biggest one has to be on the hypotenuse. So if I was given a triangle and I had 3 and 4 on the legs, then I would know that 5 is the hypotenuse. But if I was given a triangle and it said 3 and 5, I cannot say that 4 is the hypotenuse because 4 is not bigger than 5, so it wouldn't work. All right, so let's practice this. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. This says find the values for x and y. If you look at A first, 5 is on one of the legs, y is on the hypotenuse, and 10 is on the other leg. So 5 can be our A, 5 squared, plus 10 could be the B, and those could be switched, equals y squared. So now I would do 5 times 5, which is 25, 10 times 10, which is 100, equals y squared. Combine my like terms here on the left-hand side, and I get 125 equals y squared. And now to solve this, I'm going to square root both sides of the equation, and I get y equals the square root of 125. So hopefully we're feeling even more comfortable with square roots now that we've practiced them a lot. I have to break this down. So I know 5 goes into here, and it's 25 times, and I know 25 would be 5 and 5. Which means this is 5 times 5 times 5. Remember, each pair of numbers means one of that number goes to the outside of the square root, and this 5 doesn't have a pair, so it stays underneath the square root. So the answer to this, y equals 5 square root 5. So you will keep these as simplified square roots or simplified radicals. You won't use your calculator on these because you won't have it on a quiz or test, and you won't round those to decimals. Okay, let's look at B. So B says what I'm given this time is x is a leg, 3 is another leg, and 8 is the hypotenuse. So I would say x squared plus 3 squared equals 8 squared. X squared stays x squared. 3 squared is 9. 8 squared is 64. Subtract 9 from both sides of the equation. 64 minus 9 is 55. Square root both sides of the equation. X equals the square root of 55. 55 breaks down to 5 and 11, and neither of those repeats. So X will stay as the square root of 55. Okay, example 2 says, what's the length of the hypotenuse? And do the sides form a Pythagorean triple? Explain why. So the first thing we're going to do is find the hypotenuse. We could call it C if we want. We could call it X too. It doesn't matter what you call it, but that's the unknown one. And I would say 8 squared plus 15 squared equals C squared. 8 squared is 64. 15 times 15 is 225. Then I'm going to add 225 and 64. And I get C squared is the square root of C squared is 289. So we square root both sides of this equation. And I get C equals the square root of 289. So if you remember before, I said one of the hardest squares to remember is 17 squared, because you can't break this down into any other numbers. 2 is not divisible in here. 3 is not divisible in here. It is simply just 17 and 17. So C is equal to just 17 here. And knowing that 17 squared equals 289 is going to be a big help. You can also remember that 13 squared, because that's another hard one, equals 169. So because the side lengths here are 8, 15, and 17, and they're all 3 whole numbers, this is a Pythagorean triple. And I can say, yes, it's a triple because all whole numbers. So again, C is 17, and they are a triple because all 3 of those numbers are whole numbers. Okay, that's it that we're going to cover today. Okay, you're going to use the rest of the time to work on the homework for today, but you're going to stop everything you're doing right now, and you're going to submit to the notes 219, classwork 3, 8.1, part 1 notes. Do that now so you don't forget. And then once you're finished with that, you can start the homework, which is 219 homework 3, 8.1, part 1 homework. And if you work diligently, you could probably finish before you leave. But again, you want to make sure that you get those notes submitted so you don't lose credit for being late or forget. Have a great day, guys.